Okay, guys, welcome to the first webinar, Vitech webinar of 2019, Easy Migration to Microsoft Office 365. We're well and truly into the year, which probably means you have a long list of to-do plan that you're attacking, and it may be that Microsoft Office 365 migration is on that list to do. So in this session today, we'll be covering off things that you need to consider to prepare your business and how to avoid the common gotcha moments. If we flick to the next slide, running the session, we'll have Naren McClung, our Group Chief Technology Officer. Many of you may have met Naren already. He's continuously out and about, speaking to our customers both in metro and regional areas. And he sets the technological direction and pace here at Vitech. Naren will be joined by David Jacobs, affectionately known as DJ in the office. He's one of our senior technical consultants and works really closely with our customers once they've decided to make that move to Office 365. We'll be speaking about the cloud shift. We'll be covering off Microsoft Office 365 beyond licensing, top considerations and how to plan, prepare and launch. And DJ will also give you a bit of a demo of what's going on in Teams at the moment. So with that, I'll hand over to Naren.
Cool, thank you, Prue. Okay, so the cloud shift. As Prue mentioned, I'm fortunate to get to travel around and talk to customers and specifically I get to see things changing and I get to see also attitudes change towards software as a service. And not surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, in that as connectivity improves around Australia, and particularly in regional Australia, we're seeing greater adoption of the specific SaaS offerings that are out there. And of the SaaS offerings that are most popular, email is still a key driver. The burden of managing email infrastructure on premises really has overtaken, I think, and that SaaS being more and more popular around Australia and the ease of adopting particularly Office 365, and DJ is going to talk about how you pave the way and how you ease that migration, is generally making people feel a lot more comfortable in doing it. So email is a big driver. It's very burdensome to manage the storage associated with email, with the content-rich emails that get sent around. If I look at all the emails that I receive in a day or a week, there's huge volumes of storage associated with that. And across a whole organisational business, that's a big deal. Another key driver is security as well, in that many businesses and individuals in Australia have been burnt by malware or crypto, certainly in recent years. So there's a heightened requirement for security, and it's much easier to layer on specific security services and also services that enhance identity and access management by working from a SaaS foundation, something like Office 365 or specifically Exchange Online. So security and email are really big drivers we're seeing for the uptake behind Office 365. This other one, so self-propagation. So if I look at our own experience a number of years back in taking on Office 365, one of the greatest, observations was that there are specific services and applications that sort of self-propagate just by virtue of their popularity, their ease of use, and how seamlessly they integrate with the way people want to work. And there's a couple of key applications that do that, specifically Microsoft Teams that Dave Jacobs is going to talk about. Hugely popular, didn't require any sort of promotion on my part or that of the infrastructure team. And that's really quite good to see as well, when technologies are inherently easy to use and they enhance the way you do business day to day and the way you communicate. And people talk, they talk about what they like, what they're using, and the next thing you know, you've sort of eased your migration, or at least the uptake of the services that you're trying to get out there. So the service-orientated architecture is a really good thing, and I think Microsoft have done a fantastic job with Office 365 in that it's very easy to add on complementary services, be they Project, Visio, or other services that Microsoft offer, but not just Microsoft. The community out there, the marketplace, is tightly integrated. Obviously, Office 365 is hugely popular the world over, which means that there's a huge marketplace of other SaaS offerings that can easily be bound to Office 365 to enhance features, to enhance security, or to improve the identity and access management challenges that a business may be facing. So lots of really, really good reasons to go to Office 365. And certainly we're seeing a much, much greater uptake now as connectivity improves across Australia, and specifically as businesses want to be more secure and safe from all the nasty things that are out there. So having made that call, if you're in the position where you're now thinking that now is the time to do it, it's all about how you manage change, right? And how you can get that migration over the line as easy as possible. So with that, I'll hand over to David Jacobs, who's going to talk about exactly that.
And thank you, Darren. Look, in my role at Viatec as a senior solutions architect, I get, a bit like Darren, the privilege of sitting down and talking with many customers, such as yourself, around a variety of issues. And obviously today we're talking about Office 365. Generally speaking, when I talk to customers, they're very comfortable with Office 365 being a mature product in the marketplace. But as Darren touched on, the catalyst for change is usually around email, around the cost of supporting that, and the cost of licensing, as Prue mentioned before, around your Office suite. And my goal today is to, in this webinar, is to maybe broaden your horizons and challenge that thinking, and to start looking at ways that your business can capitalize on Office 365 and have a look at the whole ecosystem and how it can support the business. So when you're looking at Office 365, I firmly believe that customers should be considering more than just the licensing costs. So when you're looking at the evaluation, traditionally, a few years ago, you'd sit down and say, okay, well, a Microsoft Open Value license costs X amount. How much does Office 365 cost per month? But there's all these other hidden costs or sunken costs. How much storage does it take on my infrastructure? How do I back that infrastructure up? What's my DR and business continuity plan? What proportion of my team's time does it take to maintain that Exchange environment, or how much am I paying an outsourced provider to manage that Exchange server? So there's all these other hidden costs. So by the time you balance the Office 365 costs out with the total cost of ownership, it's quite a compelling reason and to start looking to change. And then when you start looking at the whole ecosystem, it's a very compelling argument to look at the Office 365 as a catalyst to move. And for us, I think now is definitely the right time, with the maturity of Teams, the maturity of the online products, and some other applications that I'll talk about in a moment. It definitely is the right time to consider for your business to move. When I sit down with businesses, what I try and focus the conversation on is these top 4 considerations. Our first one is change management with your users. So some organizations will have different versions of Office throughout the organization. Also looking at your workflow, where do you store your files? So we focus a lot of our time on this change management. And I believe that's one of the key critical success factors in making a smooth transition to Office 365. Secondly, we look at the technical requirements, so the bandwidth and performance of your desktops or your endpoints, just to make sure that there isn't any issues there. So when it does come time to change, this transition is quite smooth. I also find that when we're talking about Office 365, sometimes organizations may not have the best offboarding process. So looking at who your current users are, who's in Active Directory, who has accounts, is a really good time to do a cleanup of the organization and its Active Directory, but also get an understanding of what your users need. So are they road warriors? Do they just need online applications only, or do they need full desktop applications. As Naren mentioned before, that add-on capability, who in the organization might need Visio or Project? This is a really good time to have a look at that and do a full review. And finally, as Naren mentioned, top of mind is security and privacy. So if we know who our users are, what they need to access, we're able to develop a quite comprehensive security profile and use and leverage some of the security features that are built into Office 365, such as legal hold, filtering, data loss prevention, all of those sorts of things to meet your compliance requirements and develop that plan. So talking about the plan, as I mentioned, we spend a lot of time with the organisation planning, assembling your team, understanding who is there and the strategy to migrate mailboxes and your data, identifying what needs to be migrated, and making the decisions with your users to, when's that going to be the appropriate time for you? What applications you need? Once we've scoped all of that out, that gives us a very good project plan and ability to be able to prepare your organisation. So as I mentioned in the previous slide, we're able to verify all the technical requirements, and in the preparing stage, if required, making the adjustments. So for some organisations, bandwidth, whilst it is getting better, they may need to use one of our SD-WAN products to improve that for their organisation, especially in their branch offices. So we're able to help you with that transition and in the prepare stage, overcome any of those technical hurdles, but also communicate with your organisation and help with that change management process as well. And then finally, we hold the organisation's hand all the way through to launch. So that means doing the transition, assigning the licenses, and making sure that your team is very comfortable with the transition to Office 365 and that everybody's working and productive as planned. So I mentioned before that Office 365 is a lot more than just your traditional Word, Excel, and Naren touched on email and Outlook. And one of the conversations I really like having with organizations is just showing them this particular graphic here. And what this is the Office 365 periodic table. And what it tries to do is categorize the Office 365 applications into how they can be used. So everybody's familiar with the Office online suite. That's Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Some people use OneNote, especially with touch-enabled devices. We're very familiar with the Outlook suite, mail, calendar, people, tasks, and traditionally we've used these in organisations for many, many years. The challenge for me today is to start getting you to think about, well, how can we collaborate? How can we capitalise on other applications within the Office suite? So can we use Planner to manage manage our team and manage tasks? How do they collaborate together? So combination of Skype for Business and Teams. It's worth noting there that Skype for Business is actually rolling into Teams, so that chats, video conferencing, and phone functionality will all eventually roll into Teams. You've got other applications that you may not be aware of, things like Stream, which is essentially an in-house YouTube portal, and there is future plans to make that service available. So if you want to do video streaming to your customers, that's also available in Office 365. So from here, what I might do is I might just jump into Teams, and the reason why I like doing a Teams demonstration is Teams is a good portal for all of the Office 365 applications to be brought into one location and to collaborate online. So hopefully you can see on the screen now Microsoft Teams. As you can see, we've been doing some work with a fairly well-known organisation, Scouts Australia. And Scouts Australia have a number of challenges that might be similar to your organisation. So they have a number of leaders distributed across New South Wales. It's very challenging to get them all in one location. they have varying skill sets, and also the devices that they use is of varying levels as well. So how might that relate to your organisation? Well, you might have a core group of people in the office, and then you might have salespeople or travelling people that go on site that may not touch the office that often, but you need them to collaborate. You may have a BYOD policy where people like to bring in their own devices, and varying technology levels and skill levels may also be prevalent in your organisation as well. So what Teams does here, you can see here, I've just got there's different teams, and then in the teams they call them channels. I mentioned before that Skype for Business is being rolled into Teams, and you can see here that there was a meeting on the 22nd of December, and it went for 2 hours and 44 minutes. I can actually jump into that meeting. It was recorded. So again, Teams is bringing in that focus around our meetings and being able to control that. Also mentioned before, if I just sort of jump into these channels, you can see here that it's quite a focused conversation around this particular one. It's a project for an event, and we can organise the files, which does sit on SharePoint, in the background into a fairly focused view. And just looking at the maturity of Teams and Office 365, we're just going to launch a Word document. And you can see here that's quite quick. And if I want to, I can edit. And that's using Word Online. So all of this is backed up and synced in the background using SharePoint. But to the end user, they can jump on any particular computer and use the online versions. I can start a conversation with my team if I want to, which will launch into text chat or video, or I can close this particular document. And for those people that may not like the online version, I can still open this in Word as well. So you have a very similar experience with Excel, PowerPoint, any of the other documents. And then as far as scheduling meetings is concerned, it's quite easy to schedule a meeting. I'm going to see here, we can start looking at which team to invite, and then we can actually even go a little bit more granular and have a meeting within a particular channel, and then it will come up and allow us to invite. It's also worth noting that the functionality of Teams with an E5 license does allow us to call people outside the organisation. So if you think about the challenges that some of your organisation may have, or indeed the Scouts when we're working with them, the ability to be able to hold an online meeting but also call people, mobile phones, etc., into the meeting was quite important. So meetings in Teams and indeed Skype for Business with an E5 license gives you that ability to be able to schedule meetings and also introduce people outside of the organisation into that meeting as well. And just remembering, when we do have a meeting, we have the ability to record that meeting as well. So there's an audit trail of everything that's going on. So that's a very brief introduction to Teams. Just the other thing that I wanted to show you was if you have a look at, we did talk about the complementary services, and Naren did mention that. If you cast your mind back to the Office 365 periodic table, just notice there that I'm able to bring in other applications of the Office 365 ecosystem. The other thing I like about Teams is it's not just insular to the Office 365 ecosystem. So if you saw, I was in the marketing portal, our guys in marketing might like to extend that to the Adobe Creative Cloud. We also know that organizations like using SurveyMonkey, so we can drag that SurveyMonkey account into Teams. So again, giving you that very focused view around what the team is trying to achieve And if they have used other online third-party applications to achieve their goals and their outcomes, we're able to drag that into Teams, so it gives them that very focused view. And yeah, so as you can see, Teams is quite powerful. It has evolved. Office 365 is definitely more than just your Outlook, Word, Excel, and hopefully I've been able to, I guess, broaden your mind a little bit and maybe challenge you on how your team and your business can collaborate online. So from there, I might just hand back to Darren.
Thanks very much, DJ. It's very comprehensive. So guys, look, hopefully you found that informative. We do have a nice little ebook that we've produced that covers off some of those key points on easy migration that DJ's talked through. As always, if you've got any questions, you know how to reach us. You can get us on VT Sales. You can reach me directly or DJ directly. As always, feel free to talk to us about demonstrations as well. We're more than happy to come to you, or we can do things remotely, whatever works. And obviously, always reach out to your account manager if the time is right. So guys, look, thank you very much for your time. And yeah, look, good luck with Office 365.